The woman in your life will do what she must do to comfort you and calm you down and let you rest now. The woman in your life, she can rest so easily.
Hello everybody and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz and I'm your host, and as always I am so excited about today's show. Why? Because I have a special guest with me by the name of Carolyn Bonuelos, and she is the volunteer coordinator for the living room. And as we get into the program, we're going to have a surprise announcement. I don't want to say anything yet, but Caroline has something so interesting to tell us during this interview. But beginning it, now I'd like to move into just a little bit another phase of the program, and that is, I guess we have a surprise announcement that we're going to make today. And so I would like you to be my guest and just say whatever it is that you'd like to say.
Well, thank you, Elaine. And thank you for, first of all, let me say thank you for letting me come on here and talk about the living room, because it's so important to the community and to the women and children that we serve. So thank you for that. My surprise announcement, which was probably not a huge surprise, is that I'm running for Santa Rosa City Council in 2012. And I just filed with my intent to do that, and I'm starting to put all the pieces together to make that happen. And I'm very excited about it.
Well, I'm excited about it too, but you know, I'd just like you to tell my women viewers, what is motivating you to run? This is your second time. I mean, wasn't the first time enough?
Actually, this is my third time.
Oh, three is the charm.
Three's a charm, I hope. You know, a lot of people ask me that. I really, you know, and in this really downturned economy, you know, with so many challenges, and I watch the council week after week, and I know whether I agree with what they're doing or not, or certain individuals or not, I know they're all trying to do the best that they could do for the city. And I just feel that I have a lot to offer and can help them in that process. It's very challenging right now, since there is no funding at the national level, as we know, at the state level and at the local level. So finding creative ways to get through all of this is why I'm doing it. And I love helping people, and I think that I have a lot to offer the community.
Well, you know, it's interesting you talk about funding. I was reading, and I don't have the exact information, but that there was a mayor's council that actually was requesting that we bring some of our war dollars home, so some of the communities can at least get more funding.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think that was Antonio Barragosa over in LA was really pushing for that. I think he's absolutely right. You know, many folks think it's time for us to put our dollars back here. We've got so much work to do, and we really can't afford to neglect our young folks right now and the future of our country. So,
back again to Jimmy Carter's book, we have to start looking at our values, and that we, you know, our endangered values, because, you know, we have strong values in this country.
Yes.
Well, you know, Caroline, congratulations. I support you 100%. And
Elaine.
Anything that you feel, I know it always surprises people when I say this, but I'd like you to go ahead and look at that camera. Anything that's in your heart about the living room, about your challenge of running for city council, anything that you feel comfortable talking about.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to say, again, thank you for having me and letting me come on here and talk about the living room. If anyone's interested in the living room, please go to our website, www.thelivingroomsc.org. There is a PayPal there. You can donate to us, and we would love to have you. We also are on Facebook. Look for us on Facebook as well. With respect to my campaign, of course, I'm looking for help. I'm going to win this time, and I'm very confident about that. And I really think that I have a lot to offer the city, and so I hope that the residents of the city are going to let me have a chance to do that.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz, and I'm your host. And as always, I am thrilled about today's show. I have with me a special guest by the name of Julie Combs, who just happens to be running for City Councilwoman at Santa Rosa City Council this year, 2012. Attitudes. Well, what are some of the things that you hope to accomplish if you're elected?
Well, I want to say that our neighborhoods are like an ecosystem, and we have to have a lot of elements in our community and in our neighborhoods. And having neighborhoods have a good voice is key, but also having our neighborhoods have parks and have vital businesses, because with those businesses we get our jobs and we get our shopping done. So having good local businesses, having a good clean environment, having a safe school. I'm a big advocate of our Safe Routes to School program, and I think kids just really need to be able to get to and from school safely. And those are goals I have. Careers, not just jobs, really support the concept of incubating small business. A lot of women, a lot of Latino women create jobs because they have resources internally to create jobs with. They have skills that we all need to learn from. And often daycares, canning foods, all of these things can become great small businesses in our community. And we need to really help people incubate those small businesses. So while we've said progressive, I think having people have a way to express their lives is really valuable and important to us. And so I think progressive includes this concept of great local businesses and small, hyper small businesses, along with how critical it is that we have a good environment for ourselves and for our children to grow up in.
Well, I hope my viewers can understand even deeper why I get excited about these interviews, because there's so many wonderful things that are brought forward. Well, you know, we're kind of coming to the end of the show, and I thought the most important thing we could talk about, and that I wanted to leave my viewers with, is what makes you think that you're qualified to run for this office and to win?
Well, I am uniquely qualified for this office. I'm uniquely qualified because I've been involved with the Community Advisory Board, so I'm familiar with lots of different levels of the city government. Because I have the degree in both psychology and engineering, I have experience in both the hard capital improvements, public works type programs that the city is engaged in, and also in the social services, disabilities rights, homeless issues that the city is also responsible for. So unlike many candidates who are sort of one-sided or have only one characteristic, I have a combination of traits. I've run a small business, I've worked for government, I've been on a planning commission in a county, I've designed adaptive equipment. I'm really familiar with a lot of the issues and concerns of the city government, have worked with council members on solving some of our city problems, and I think that makes me uniquely qualified.
There's one other thing you need to include in there, is that you understand people with disabilities, and that's very important. You were the first person that I've ever really interviewed that ever addressed that issue. Well, you know, we've covered a lot of territory, and you know, I know this is going to be a surprise. I always surprise my guests with this little part at the end of the show. I want you to just look at that camera over there, and anything that's in your heart. Ask people to vote for you, you know, ask people to, you know, to get involved, whatever you feel comfortable. Just, it's your moment.
You're right. Thank you, Elaine, for the opportunity to talk to your listeners. When my daughter was born and I looked at her, I knew that I had to help make this world a better place for her and for her generation. And I know that's a key concern of all of your viewers, is what happens with our children and how to make the world a better place for them. I hope I earn your vote on City Council, because I hope to make Santa Rosa a better place for all of our families. Thank you, Elaine, for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Julie, and I couldn't have said it any better, and I want to wish you all the luck in the world with this election, and I know once people get to... Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz, and I'm your host. And as always, I am so excited about today's guest. I have a wonderful woman by the name of Gina Kuklis, who just happens to be also running for the Board of Supervisors in District 1 here in Sonoma County. You know, it's just amazing. What I love about Women's Spaces is the fact that we can gather all these wonderful women and hear their stories and find out all about them. You know, it's so important, ladies, that we vote. You know, we live in a democracy, and we live in the United States of America, and most people don't realize how lucky we are There are countries across the globe where people are in revolutions just to get the vote. So it's very, very important, I think, for our women to get out there and to support the candidates that they believe in. And between you and me, we have some great women in this county that are running. You know, I want to flash this picture on the screen, which I think is really interesting, talking about women running and some of the stuff that's going on in our political lives today. But just look at this picture. This is an old suffrage picture. And what do they say? No self-respecting woman should wish or work for the success of a party that ignores her sex. You know, what does that mean, ignores her sex? It means that they pay attention to what her needs are. Her needs, say, for child care, her needs for birth control, her needs for family planning. You know, I can go on and name several things, but I think it's very, very important that we pay attention to the people that are running. And just to, once again, honor our sisters of the past, I just love this picture. You know, it's really, really an interesting picture. It probably was taken over 100 years ago. And just think about it. We have been struggling as women for over 100 years to get our voices heard and to get our needs met.
For a second. Do we have, what concerns me is, do we have a board of supervisors, or will we have a board of supervisors that could make the best decisions possible for all of us in Sonoma County? If we don't have a board where all regional perspectives and voices are represented. Now, all the other 4 members of the board, they all live in cities. 2 live in the city of Santa Rosa. Currently, Valerie Brown, who's retiring, it's her seat that I'm running to fill. She lives in Kenwood. So when she goes off the board, if we don't replace her with somebody else with the perspective of living outside of cities, and don't replace her with somebody who comes from Sonoma Valley and understands here Sonoma Valley issues, will we have a board that is truly representative of all of Sonoma County? So that's a higher level issue. Another issue you hear a lot, everybody's talking about this, and that's pension reform. We need pension reform so that we have money, all the money that we, well, not all the money, that we have more money for services. And the taxpayers, the voters, it's the #1 thing nowadays all over the district. I keep hearing, I'm asked about over and over again by the voters about pension reform. So we need to do that. And then we need, excuse me, I call it, I'm very concerned about the shredding of the social safety net. It's the county's the real leader in that. The county and working with the community-based organization and providing our human and social services and our health services, that working together collaboratively to prevent the shredding of the social safety net. I'm very concerned about that also.
You know, it's really scary what's going on in the world today, and you know, one of my opinions is we do have the money. It's just that we're not prioritizing the money. We're putting it in places that maybe are not for the best interest of the citizens and seem to be serving, how do I put this without taking any side or anything, that seem to be serving interest groups that maybe are not for the whole. You know, it's more just for a select group. So it sounds like you have a little bit more of a handle on what direction maybe your area has to handle, and that's what I'm hearing you saying. You know, we're coming to the end of the show, and time goes by very quickly when you have fun. So what I would like you to do, it's just been a wonderful interview and wonderful getting to know you. You know, that's exciting, and I hope my listeners, my viewers also have that opportunity. I have to tell you that Women's Spaces was once on the radio, so I always have a hard time going listener, viewer, listener, viewer.
Okay.
So look at this. Okay. Go and look at this camera. Anything that's in your heart, anything that you feel comfortable saying, just be my guest.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Well, I've really appreciated being here. And if you are a voter in my district, I hope that you will keep in mind what Elaine and I have talked about. I think it's very critical, this idea of, do we truly have a board of supervisors that truly represents all of Sonoma County? I've lived in the unincorporated area of Sonoma Valley 25 years. You've heard Elaine and I talk about my involvement. We haven't had an opportunity today to touch on health care, but that's an issue I've had a lot of experience and involvement with. So I'm looking forward to serving all of the residents of Sonoma County as the next 1st District Supervisor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz, and I'm your host. And as always, I am so excited about today's show. I have a special guest with me by the name of Susan Gorin. And we know Susan as a member of the City Council. But during this interview, the interview is going to be all about her up-and-coming election. She's running for Board of Supervisors for the 1st District, and I'm telling you, I am just so excited about this interview, I can't handle it. And it's very, very interesting because I got an email and somebody asked me, why do you do Women's Spaces? You know, this is strictly a volunteer position that I'm in here. I'm not getting paid. This is just from my heart to the community. And why do I like doing it? For the simple reason, to be able to bring people, women like Susan, to the community so you can get to know her on a very personal and deep level. I mean, oftentimes when somebody is running for election, what do you get? You get a little card in the mail or you get a sound bite. But here we have about 25 minutes of just understanding and getting to know this individual who happens to be running for Board of Supervisors. So that's why I do Women's Spaces.
The Board of Supervisors have had a economic development report that outlines some strategies, which is a great base to build upon. But specifically for the 1st District, it is so beautiful to ride our bikes or walk or drive through the Valley of the Moon. But we do know that wineries occupy a great deal of the valley floor. We are incredible beneficiaries of that wonderful wine and the great boost that it gives our economy. But we need to move forward on other agricultural production as well. 80% of our farms and ranches in Sonoma County are less than 20 acres. We could be doing more to boost and market our agricultural production of crops other than simply wine grapes, and look at the industries serving those, because we have so many people coming to Sonoma County to taste some wine and to enjoy the ambiance in our beautiful cities, and they come here for the food as well, the food festivals. So we have a lot of exciting things moving forward on green industries, green businesses, and moving us closer to sustainability and approaching the future with joy and preparedness.
You know, that's one thing I know about you, Susan, that's so important, the word sustainability, sustaining what we have, the beauty and the culture, and at the same time building the economy so we have, I mean, it sounds like it's a real balance act for you. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and it goes by very, very quickly. 27 minutes just moved. But I'd like you to be my guest and just look at the camera here. Anything that you feel comfortable. You know, I know that you have so many other things that we could talk about. But I really would like to encourage you to talk to our women viewers. You know, maybe give a little idea of how they also can get involved, just like yourself. Just be my guest on this camera here.
Well, Elaine, I'm glad that you brought up women's history at the beginning of this show, because in fact March is National Women's History Month, and in fact the Women's History Project started in Sonoma County, and I've been almost a lifelong member of the History Project. I want to let the viewers know that throughout the long history of the Board of Supervisors, there have been only 5 women elected as supervisors. I think it's important to elect me as another woman serving in the grand tradition. Our first supervisor was Helen Rudy. We're so thrilled that she is still a part of our lives. Want to honor her service both on the Santa Rosa School Board and the Board of Supervisors this month, and recognize that women add a little different dimension to the county policy discussions, not necessarily worse or better, just a little different. And I want to be part of that. And I offer my experience as a mother, active community volunteer, school board member, city council member, former planning commissioner, Board of Public Utilities member, as the incredible experience that needs to be brought to the Board of Supervisors. The board makes tough decisions that affect the entire county, not just the 1st District. I'm ready to hit the ground running, but I will need your support. There are so many people who have endorsed me and are supporting me. I would encourage you to go on my campaign website, www.susangorin.com, to learn a little bit more about me and the kind of people who are supporting my campaign. Thank you.
Hello everybody and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz and I'm your host. And as always, I am so thrilled about today's show. Why? Because I have a very special guest with me, Supervisor Shirley Zane, who represents the 3rd District here in Sonoma County. And actually, Shirley is actually up for re-election, and we're going to talk about both her job as supervisor and also about her campaign. So I know it's going to be a very, very in-depth conversation. Get into the re-election now.
Yes.
I know, campaigns are always a bear, and what is it? Why do you feel that you need to, go for a second term? What is your motivation?
Well, I think my motivation is what it was 4 years ago, but even stronger, which is I've always been a public servant. I've served the community as a nonprofit leader for many years, and there's so much to do at the county. The county is a $1.2 billion operation. We do the criminal justice services, we provide water, we open spaces, regional parks, health and human services, and I started a lot of things and I want to continue to work on those things. The Family Justice Center, I've worked on that for 5 years, and as most people know, we've had a ribbon cutting and an opening, and I want to continue to work with our district attorney, Jill Ravitch, also our first woman district attorney, to bring in funding and make sure that Family Justice Center is there and strong for many years to come. I want to continue to create mental health services that are innovative. I want to continue to bring my budget expertise. I want to balance our pensions. A lot of people know about pension reform. They're very concerned about it. I wrote the pension reform plan with Supervisor Rabbit. We've started to implement it. We need to make sure that we have a sustainable pension system so that we continue to provide great services. Our roads need help. Everybody knows our roads need help. If you're on a bike and you're hitting potholes, you really know the roads need help, like I am. And so I'm working on providing additional funding services. I reopened the landfill essentially because it was with my leadership and Supervisor Carrillo's that we did not sell our landfill. And so now we've taken hundreds of trash trucks off the road that we're out hauling, and we're getting a permit, and I've brought all these cities together with these very green goals for cost efficiency and recycling. So there's so much more work I have to do, Elaine, in terms of serving Sonoma County, and I feel like I've only really just begun.
I have to say something as I listen to you. I only have one regret, that I'm not in the 3rd District. I'm in the 1st. I mean,
that's okay.
my goodness, I mean, just some of the work and some of the things you've outlined. I mean, it's just amazing, your energy and the things that you want to bring forward. Well, Shirley, time goes by so fast when we're in the studio, and we just covered so many things, and I really, really appreciate you and everything that you brought forward in this interview, but I still want to give you one more opportunity, and that is to just put your eyes on that camera and anything that you would like to say to our viewers. This is Women's Spaces. Anything that's in your heart, of course, you want people's vote in the 3rd District, but anything that you feel that you would like to share with our viewers.
Well, I guess I would really like to share that it's been a real privilege for me to be a public servant. When you are elected to office, you do have an opportunity to make people's lives better, and it is something I've taken very much to heart. A lot of people know I had a real personal tragedy in my first term, and that my husband took his life. So I've been able to be also a spokesperson for suicide survivors and for better mental health care services. I'm working on a national level. I am the chair of the Long-Term Health Care Committee for the National Association of Counties, and I'm working on policy that all the counties in America are taking back to Washington in terms of health services for seniors. So there's so much more left to be done, but I really want to thank people for having the confidence in me, and I want them to be assured that I will always promise to do my very best job to serve the people of Sonoma County, and especially the 3rd District, and to make our lives better in terms of social justice, in terms of our environment, in terms of parks and open spaces, and in terms of taking care of our seniors, our veterans, our children, and making sure our youth have a really great future here. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done, and we're creating over $300 million in jobs right now with all of these projects, and that's been a lot of hard work. So being a public servant, it's not about hyperbole, it's not about rhetoric, it's about going to work and making a difference day after day after day, and really working hard to make this a better community.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz, and I am your host. And as always, I am just thrilled about today's guest. I have a special woman with me by the name of Veronica Jacoby, who just informed me last week. I was so surprised that she has put her hat in the ring and she is running for 5th District Supervisor. And boy, I know she's going to have some race, but you know, that's what we have in a democracy. What's so wonderful is that we have elections and we have people that can put their names on the ballot, and we, the people, can decide who we want. You know, I tend to be, of late, leaning more towards women, particularly what has been happening with women. I mean, for God's sakes, ladies, you know, we have to start standing up, and standing up tall and loud.
But we need to get our priorities straight, and we can't, I am not going to take gravel out of the Russian River and damage our water quality and damage our fish, our salmon, our precious salmon. I'm not going to stand by and not speak up either on the local level and lobbying on the other levels of government. When I was on the city council, I got us to speak out for cap and share, which is a wonderful way of putting a cap on emissions and then sharing the profits. So you tax or cap the emissions, and then the money that comes in goes to everybody else. So if the increased cost that gets passed on when gasoline, for example, is taxed, you'll have more money in your bank account to pay for the increase in the gas, for example. So it's complex, and we don't have much time, but I just wanted to mention that we put a letter out from the city council. We were the first city, I believe, in the nation to encourage our representatives in Washington to explore this, and they talked about it and they've put some bills forward, but it hasn't happened yet, but I hope it happens soon.
But you know, it's really interesting as we do the interview. I have to say this. I mean, you come, you know, it's very interesting when you become to that awareness that your children are not going to have, if you don't do something, that your children are not going to have the future. And I think that's why we need more women. I mean, we really do. And people are saying, but you have to be careful, because just because it's a woman doesn't mean that the politics or their intentions are in line.
Right.
You know, and it's amazing what you talk about, because I know that's why I do Women's Spaces. I'm very concerned about the future, and I want the mothers of the world to stand, the mothers and the grandmothers to stand up and say enough is enough is enough. You know, so I really appreciate some of the things that you have talked about. You know, we're coming to the end of our show. Time goes by very quickly when we're having a good time. So is there anything else that you'd like to share, or any message you would like to give our listeners? Please feel free to look at that camera, and anything that's in your heart, and just express it. Just be my guest.
Thank you. Yeah, and I jumped around from salmon and protecting the waterways, but
salmon, food security. I so much want food security for our area. It is so important, and we can do it. We can have our own gardens. We, like Victory Gardens years and years ago, we can have community gardens. We can support community-supported agriculture. We can even have community vineyards. There are so many things we can do to empower us so that if things on a global level are difficult, which they may be, at least we've created some resiliency. And I want to define climate resiliency. Resiliency to me is like, like a rubber band, resilient rubber band, that we have not just one thing to keep us okay if things go difficult. So if there's a drought, we're not dependent on just one way of getting water. Things like rainwater harvesting. It's very exciting that now the red tape has been greatly reduced. You can have water from your washing machine and going to water your trees. And all these things, there are so many solutions. There are tons and tons of solutions, and I want to empower people as a supervisor on the big scale, and I want to also empower each of us individually. We don't have to wait for government to do it for us. We can elect people who will do it for us, but we can also do things ourselves. And please, please, please take action. And I saw a young woman who said she wasn't registered to vote yet, although she could be, and I asked her to watch Iron-Jawed Angels because it's so important to vote. It's so important. Please keep your power. Please take your power. Please stand up if you're in the 99% and take your power and use it and work for good. Thank you so much. And thank you, Elaine.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz, and I'm your host. And as always, I am so excited about today's interview. In fact, I'm not even going to have a commentary. We're going to get right into it. I have a very special woman with me by the name of Dr. Jill Stein, who is a mother, a housewife, a physician, a longtime teacher of internal medicine, and a pioneer of environmental health services. She called herself a pioneer of health advocacy. And guess what? She is running for President of the United States under the Green Party. I am so excited and so honored to introduce my guest, Jill Stein. Jill, welcome. Welcome to Women's Spaces.
Thank you so much, Elaine. It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and I'm so excited. But what do you think it is in our human nature that prevents us from voting in another way?
Well, I think people are cautious, and that's human nature maybe, but we've had such really bitter experience over the last 3 years, 4 years since the economy crashed that I think it's a time of real wake-up. And what I find now in talking to people, it's more that they don't know about us. They don't know that there is another option that's actually for them, and that so many people are ready now to take a new stand and to actually vote for a candidate who's for them. Zogby Polls, which is one of the respected polling agencies, put out a poll last week showing that 1 out of every 4 voters is now saying that they are intending to vote for a third-party candidate, that they are sick and tired of the 2 major parties, which, as you say, basically function like one party. I went to a college in Western Illinois as the kickoff of our campaign because we are committed to our younger generation, and we wanted to start our campaign trail at a college where students are really struggling. And these are the students really who, in my view, are ground zero for what our politics should really be about and the change that we need. And I went because they were holding an election, a mock presidential election, including the whole 9 yards, the conventions, the electoral college, the popular vote, and all that. And I had 6 minutes to present, my point of view. This was in a little area of Midwestern farm country where East meets West, urban meets rural, and so on, a real cross-section of America. They do this at these little colleges every 4 years, and typically the results predict the outcome of the election. So people pay attention to what happens. We were running at about 3% among the students there. They weren't particularly green or progressive, for that matter. This is like, rural Illinois. After I gave my 6-minute speech, we came up to 27% of the vote. It became a three-way race. Students flipped like that because they recognized that this was about their future and that our campaign was really about serving them, not about serving the taskmasters that are keeping them enslaved and really destroying their future. So they were ready to change in a heartbeat, and I'm finding this over and over again in talking to people. They are ready to change in a heartbeat, which is why the powers that be are going to do their best to prevent people from finding out that they actually have a real choice in this election. And that's where we come in, because what we can do as individuals is tell our neighbors. We can use the internet, and my website is just my name, jillstein.org. You can sign up to get the newsletter, you can forward it to your friends by email, you can get on Facebook about it if you're on Facebook. Egypt and Tunisia just brought down dictators who were there for decades, largely through social media, through telling their friends and through Facebook. So, we have incredible tools for democracy now that we haven't ever had before. So we are in a completely unique moment in history. And I must say that I really find the weak link in the chain of change right now is not that people don't want to go there. They just don't know that there is this place to go for reviving our democracy and reclaiming our future.
Well, I got to tell you something, Jill Stein. I just feel so alive and now. I'm just like, I'm ready to go out and hold a sign and do all these great things. Yes. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. Time goes by so quick when we're having a good time and a good conversation here. So what I would like you to do is just go look at this camera, and any message that you'd like to give our viewers. Remember, this is Women's Spaces.
Wonderful.
Just please be my guest. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to be here on Women's Spaces. And that's what brought me into the political process as a woman, as a mother, and as a medical doctor. And seeing that the future is bleak right now for us and especially for our children. And it has only become bleaker in these recent years when we've had a Democratic president, and for 2 years, the first 2 years of his presidency, we had a completely Democratic Congress as well. So, I think it really drives home that as women, as mothers, as daughters, as sisters, as grandmothers, as members of the human community and real leaders and heart of the human community, that we can lead the way to a better future by standing up and bringing our values into the political system and insisting that our political system not be hijacked by corporate America and the big banks and the hedge fund managers, but rather we take our politics back and make it about us, our families, our communities, our children, and the future that we can have together.
There's a lot to think about, and that is the purpose of Women's Spaces, to get us all thinking. And remember, write your congressman, write the President of the United States, write your local people, and make one simple suggestion. Before they write that important bill, before they take that important vote, they ask one question: is it good for your and my children? Is it good for the children? If it's not good for the children, let's not do it. And folks, war is not good for the children. Lack of health care is not good for the children. Not having education, they're cutting PE and music and art. I mean, these are things that help children create their creativity and their intelligence. Anyway, there's a lot to think about, and I hope we're all thinking out there. Anyway, this is Elaine Holtz with Women's Spaces saying thank you so much for watching, and I will see you the next time.
Knows simply what is true. She knows a simple way to touch, to make you whole now. The woman in your life, she can touch so easily. She knows everything you do, because the woman in your life is you. And who knows more about your story, about your struggles in